You know what's funny, guys, is that I thought I hit the go live button, and I was just sitting here talking away to you all. So, yeah, that's how long it's been since I've gone live. That I literally didn't know I was not live, right? So, is what it is. What's going on, Mr. Washburn, Mr. Sawyer, uh, Mr. Fannin, Douglas? What's going on, Die Hard Anglers? What's going on, Bassing with Big Malone? Hey, brother, I hope you got your box. Let me know if you did, by the way. By the way, I still do co-host a podcast called the Basscast. I know I haven't done a live. Haven't done a live in a long time on the channel. And it's just because I just don't have time to do what I want to do. And because I work swing shifts, I can't be consistent about it, do it weekly. And, in the evenings when I am off and I'm not working night shifts, I enjoy spending it with, the family. That's what I try and do. So, but I do a podcast and, very opinionated one. We just recorded tonight that'll be out. So the Basscast, if you all listen to podcasts, or if you watch it on YouTube, the Basscast radio, it's out there. I know, alive, Kyle. I know. What's going on, Triple? For Real Angling, Tom Judson, Mike Roten, Lowbrow Fishing. What is going on, Lowbrow? Very underrated YouTube channel right there. Guys, make sure you go check him out. He does a lot for this channel, and I appreciate the heck out of him. He is the reason there is 100% Watch Squad. But anyway, like I said, I know I haven't done a live in a long time, and it's like I was saying before I realized that I wasn't live. It's how long I've done it. I didn't realize I wasn't live, and I was having a great conversation with you guys. But yeah, it's it's hard. I work swing shifts, and when I am off in the evenings, when I'm working day shifts or I'm off, the evenings is when I get to spend the time with my family because they're not working. And like I said, I do the Basscast podcast. You all should really go watch the one that's going to drop tomorrow. And I just it's just hard. I can't be consistent with it, so it's all over the map. So I'm gonna try and do a few more. Took a little break from them, but I'm gonna try to be a little more consistent. Just hit one here and there. What's going on, Bart? Mr. Harris, Benedetto, what is going on? It's good to see you too, bud. The Adventures of General Hooligan. Hey, man, Lowbrow, you ain't got to thank me, brother. You do way more for me than I do for you, and I appreciate everything you do. Everything all you geeks do, man. I appreciate the heck out of it. I really wanted to come on and talk to y'all tonight. I mean, we'll just answer straight-up questions. What's going on, Chris Curtis? I wanted to come on and ask straight up or talk to y'all about kind of, if you've watched the fishing videos and you kind of keep up with them. I know they're a little bit far apart. But gosh, man, they take so long to edit anyway. Y'all don't want to hear me complain. I want to talk to you all about some of the stuff that I've been learning. And a lot of it is, I'm probably going to lose half the audience, but because of Livescope. I mean, I have learned so much about fish movements and, kind of what they really do in the transition. And it's really cool, man. I mean, it's really cool. It's really cool. Yeah, Matt Harmon, he's a good guy. Mr. Big. I'm just going to call you Mr. Big. Passing with Big Malone. That's just a lot of words, so I'm just going to call you Mr. Big. Chris Curtis, I don't know what that is. It's just, it must have cut you out. Mike Roten, can you tell? Let's see. Can you tell us where to get those BR heads? Right now, you just got to keep looking. I know I talked to the Duo guys the other day because I'm waiting to get some more. And I'm waiting to pick some up. So, they're I know that they've got them produced. I know that they're shipped. So you should be seeing Tackle Warehouse get them, and you should be seeing the Hooked Up Tackle get them, along with some other places. So is Randy really in here? Because I'm just going to tell you, Randy won't like me much. I'll just be honest with you. I mean, not on a personal level, but probably on a fishing level. He ain't going to like this conversation. Travis Works. Mike Roten, what's going on? Thanks, man. I've been looking. Sorry, brother. I wish I could tell you something any different than that. Listen. Look, guys, any tool that I can use to catch fish, like I love fishing. And let me restate. I love catching. Okay. If I go out on the lake and I fish tough waters, first off, you got to understand, here's why Livescope is so important to me. Nowhere on any lake that I go am I ever, let's say, a boat length away from the bank. Okay, so 20 feet. If I am 20 feet away from the bank, I promise you I am minimum of 20 feet, if not 120 feet deep. So it's not like bass just get on points or they stay shallow. And 15 feet, there's not grass where I fish. The bass, for me, when they get to summer, they pull off and they suspend and they chase shad. The bass here, we don't have blueback herring, but my buddy Joey tells me that the bass here act like they have blueback herring in the lakes I fish. So, I've fished for these bass for years, just getting out there and blind casting, looking at shad patterns on my 2D down image, side image, and over the years. And it's a grind to do that. So yeah, I'm not going to lie. I enjoy not having to guess. You guys that fish shallow, man, you target fish. I mean, the lakes I fish during the summer, if we're talking about late August to, I've seen tournaments be won on 9 pounds of bass. So we're not talking about the great, fisheries. We're talking about fisheries that get probably some of the most, and people that fish them get some of the most pressure you'll ever see. Mr. Bart can attest to that. All right, I am going to try and keep up with your all's stuff. So Tom Judson, listen, a Livescope is worth every penny. And it, guys, fish the way you want to, but don't hate me for fishing the way I want to fish. And I don't want to fish, I want to catch. That's just how I'll put it to you every time. I'm happy when I'm catching. The funnest part of fishing is going, if you say any otherwise, you're a liar. It's my opinion. But for you guys that can't afford it, don't want it, don't care about it, it is teaching me a lot that I get to share with you. And that's the cool part about it. Exactly, Bart. And I know what lake you're at. You cannot compete on the lake in the bass tournament. On our lakes. And me and Bart shares, I call that one of my home lakes. I don't get to fish it as much as I'd like. But Bart's right. You don't compete in the tournaments that we're in. You don't compete in the Tuesday nighters anymore where we're at. Mailman, Brian from Nashville. What's going on? It's all right, Tribble. Not all of us like Randy either. It's not that it's not personal. I just don't see eye to eye with him on his views. I mean, on certain things. Some things I do. If they make a mold for those BR heads. It is. Now, remember, the fish means a lot, too, on those BR heads. It really does have to have a flat bottom, curved top. It's got to be a little stiffer plastic, just so you know. Now, I have been trying out some baits, some other baits on that head. The shad shape worm works. Let's see. Gosh, I can't even remember. I tried the Dream Shot because it's flat with a little curve. It does not work. It's way too soft. What else? There was one. Oh, now I do believe the Damiki Armor Shad would work, but it's got a split belly on it, so you can't rig it upside down the way you'd want to. But the shad shaped paddle tail does work really well if you cut the tail off of it. So that's a pretty good one. Let's see. Lower Lab making cheap shots. My expensive. Sorry, I don't know what you're saying there, Lowbrow. I might have missed something. Yeah, amen. If you ain't scoping, you're hoping. It's that simple around here in my home lakes. Watauga, Holston, amen. Preach right there. It's my home lakes too. And it's, the little lake that I've been fishing over in Virginia. We'll just call it Top Secret Lake F. It's the same way. I mean, these are canyon style lakes. Now, the ones in Tennessee is more what I would call highlands, real highlands style lakes. But only 5.5 inches, lots of head movement. I agree. Catching is much better than fishing. Yeah, people are going to hate. But, here, I seen a comment the other day where somebody had already went out and bought the Livescope. And they were like, yeah, I was dead set against it. But, whoa, yeah, it's definitely different. And that's what will happen. Prices drop. People get it. It's all there is. Yeah, it is to a certain extent. It's really, a lot of the hate that comes for Forward Facing Sonar. I think it's more of how expensive fishing is getting in a hole. I think that's, because we know that pro angling has priced a lot of people out of ever being a pro. And now just sometimes you almost feel like just Weekend Warrior, the bigger Weekend Warrior tournaments are pricing you out of being a pro or being a tournament angler in general. Yeah, I agree with that too. I agree with that. That is very true. Very, very true. Now, okay, listen, before we go down this rabbit hole, and I'm trying to get to all of you. Who is Randy Blockett? I missed that. Where was it? Right there it was, mailboy. So guys, I want to tell you this story real quick about fish movement, right? So I went out to this lake. I'd only fished it 2 or 3 times, like a handful of times. This has been, 6, 7 years ago. We went out and we decided to start graphing, and we pulled up in this area. And a lot of times, because these are Corps of Engineer lakes, so there's not a lot of docks on them. It's kind of like Del Hollow. They don't allow, docks and that sort of thing, private docks, homes on the water. So, it's these very steep, like this lake, man. It reminds me, if any of you have ever been to Cumberland, shout out to my guy again. Oh my God, Jared. Hold on, I got to go back up here. Die Hard Anglers, Lord have mercy. But so they're very steep. There's no flats, like literally it's bluffs and kind of bluffs, right? 45 and 90s. That's all you've got. And when I say a canyon lake, that's what it is. And so, yeah, Jesse, Val, Norris, Cherokee, you got to have forward facing sonar. You get well bad. I agree. But we get out there and we're scanning around. We see this stick up, probably 55 feet deep, and literally, again, just to tell you how deep these lakes are, how steep they are, I can get a boat length from this stick up in this channel swing, and we see all these shad fry. We notice that they're shad fry, not on Livescope, but on the side image, and we notice it because it's a cloud. Like, you're not seeing individual dots at all. It's a haze, right? And we see this, and we see a bunch of bass in there. We'd seen this before. Shad fry love to gather around stick up wood like that, and it's just huge. So we start fishing. We catch a few. We start noticing that in this area, there's all kinds of these broken up balls of shad. And so these broken up balls of shad, all of a sudden, as we're sitting here fishing for these fish around this stick up that's in this shad fry, we notice that there's a bunch of just wolf packs, as a lot of us call them. We've all seen wolf packs if we've been out on the lake, right? We've spring, summer, fall, just these groups of bass cruising the banks, and that's what they're doing out in the open. They just pull off the banks. Now, what's amazing is that these fish are at the sight level. So for the most part, we always think about bass going deep in the summer, but what I really discovered is this lake was about 15-foot visibility, 12 to 15, depending on where you are. And what was really cool about it was that that's where the bass were. They were about 15 to 20. And I could take small swim baits. I threw everything at them, all kinds of summer stuff, spoons, the stuff that we ledge fish, all the time. And, through that stuff. But I really started discovering that it really was about the Mickey style, what I call minnow baits. But even then, the water was so clear that if they got a good look at it and there wasn't enough fish, like there was so much shad that there'd be these shad balls where there'd be a one bass or 2 bass or 3 bass. And me and my buddies started calling those onesie twosies. But there were these groups of bass, and we're talking about anywhere from 20 to hundreds of bass swimming around out there. And so in this area, as long as you were inside those shad, and it was just massive amounts of shad. If you haven't watched the last video, not the one that dropped tonight, but the buyer's guide, but the one before that, you'll see them. I'll show them to you. And that's how we figured out where they were. Now, what was really cool is all through July down to August, they were in the same place every time we'd go. And a lot of times, like, I've chased these fish. You guys have seen videos for years where we've caught them in top water out over deep water. And what I didn't realize is these were the bass that we were targeting. you know, just these groups of shad, we'd see them bust up and we'd take and throw at them in the middle of summer, first thing in the morning. And now we could see, below the surface and see actually how many of these bass were there. And it was insane to us what we were seeing. So I'll stop right there and answer a few of your questions, because then we're going to get into the transition. All right. So once the temperatures begin to drop, and how we started tracking these bass as they moved. All right, I'm going through here. Chris Curtis, what's up? People call, hey, adventures. I think a lot of people. Let's see. Mailman. I want to make sure I'm saying hi to everybody. All right, here's a good question, Tom Judson. So if you were going to, say, Lake Chick, would you still rely heavily on it, or would you pick it apart, not having it? I try to make sure I don't get overly caught on it, right? I'm going to use it simply because it's a time saver. So in the same way that we learn how to use down imaging, side imaging, so now you don't have to zigzag. Side imaging is good enough that on most points, and especially using chick, ledges, we can just one pass, maybe two, we can see them, so we don't have to go, cross hatch this way, to see what's directly under us. It's kind of the same way. You may not see them, but I might pull up and throw down the forward facing, scan around, throw a bait that might, if I think they're on the bottom, throw a bait to see if they'll come up off the bottom to show themselves. If they're there, they're there. If they're not, I'm saving time and I'm going to the next spot. Brush piles. The great thing, listen, guys, you guys know, man, I love my birds, right? I've got birds on the old Triton still. But when it comes to forward, Garmin's hand down the best. You're going to get the best separation. It's just, I've got a Livescope settings video that should be out like this month or next. And you'll see lost audio. Oh, never mind. Okay. Man, I love J Bros plastics. Listen, I'm telling you, I didn't want to say this, but again, the ballpoint, the double trouble, that's a secret, not so secret, little bait for me. Now, the vegetation is a little bit different, but, that's one thing. Don't believe the BS on shallow, because that's BS. You can adjust that thing and see fish in 2 foot of water 100 feet away. Yeah, and I'll tell you what, Stevie, I hate it sometimes now that I do have it. Sometimes I just have to cut it off and go fishing, but that's the thing. Like, if I know the bass are shallow, and that, you guys got to remember, around here, the bass are crazy deep or out over deep water, or it's spring. it's spawn. And that's pretty much it, right? Because even if they're in a laydown, you got to remember, we don't have super thick cover in most of our lakes. There'll be some around docks, but even that's kind of a, and I know my guy from Douglas can tell you about this, and so can my guys from Watauga. Jesse can tell you. Norris is a big one. They'll tell you that the docks are a time of year sort of deal. They're there and they're not. I'm not saying, and you guys got to remember, like, my thoughts on catching bass, we're talking about keeper tournament style bass. We're in our area. 5 3-pounders is going to put you in money and big great days 90% of the year. you know, in the biggest tournaments you can get out there. You know, they just won an event on Cherokee, the Morristown Marine, and I think it took 13 to 14 on a 2-day event, and it was a $20,000 paycheck. Okay, those are the types of lakes we're fishing. Now there's times a year when you're going to put a 20 bag together, but that's getting harder and harder to do across the board. No, it don't. Lower Lab, it don't. You know what it robs the merits of? A lot of your older guys, it's like my dad trying to use a cell phone. You know, look, fishing always changes. You know, the world changes. It's going to change. I mean, you know, I can't wait till I get a truck that'll drive me to the lake, and then hopefully the seat will just come out and stick me in the boat, and then the boat will launch itself, and then all I got to do is, you know, I can hear Siri go, "You have arrived at spot number 1." I just got to stand up and make a cast. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm good. Look, progress is coming whether we like it or not. But, you know, let me get through some of these. Oh, last day getting out on the waters this weekend, then ice fishing. Yeah, I'm so glad we don't get hard water down here. I don't know. I would probably really be an alcoholic though, because I'd sit in those huts and probably not be a good day. Yeah, but you know, I'm the same way right there. I won't say this. Dodo bird gaming. I don't enjoy fishing slow bottom methods, Texas rigs, drop shots. Is there any way to make it more enjoyable, or do some people just find it slow and boring? Okay. My first on that is it's never slow and boring if you're catching them. But there's always going to be those days. Like, you know, I'll drag a Texas rig or a Carolina rig or a drop shot if I know they're eating it. But for the most part, you know, it just depends on that day and where you're at and what you're trying to figure out. If they're just eating it, it's all you can get them to eat. Like, let's say you're fishing a pond, you can cover all that water. You know, it's you know, sometimes that's just what you got to do, man. But yeah, I'm with you. I'm always going to try and throw some sort of moving baits, whether those be swim baits or anything else, even if it's a slow moving bait. What's going on, leather stocking angler? Yeah, chatterbait, swim jigs. Thank you very much for the like. My local lake is small but deep. Yeah, 50 feet, 2 bowl shaped, grassy, clear water. Now, we don't have grass. That's the other thing. That's why I think these bass up here or around me really, really relate to their food source, the primary food source. And we're lucky enough to have a lot of shad in the lakes that we fish. Blade baits for the transition. You know, I like that. That is that's the one thing about forward facing sonar. I love a jerk bait in the transition. But wow, man, forward facing sonar is changing the way. I know a lot of lure companies that I've talked to, and they really talk about how a lot of traditional baits aren't selling as well anymore because of the forward facing sonar. So I think you're going to see an uptick in those sort of baits coming out on the market as more people adapt the technology, and you're going to see it. It is hard to beat a good jerk bait. I do like the Mega Bass series. Bluegill swim baits as a slayer. Hey, I know a lot of guys don't have, you know, if you're fishing in ponds or stuff like that. And I know, depending on the time of year, now it's already past for us, But, you know, there is a big bluegill bite in the fall. Experience always matters, Lower Lab. You still got to know. Look, bass fishing, when it comes down to it, it's about who finds them. Catching them for the most part's easy, and who finds them the fastest. That's why we have blast offs. So you got to know where to look. You got to know where they are. To be honest with you, and this is one of the things we touched about, I don't think it's a bad thing that a lot of guys are going out of pro angling. You know, a lot of the older guys. And my opinion is there's a lot of guys in there that they're just, you know, it was the same argument in NASCAR when they started going to the stages. It was like, oh, NASCAR drivers don't just drive around the track and points. Bull. And we see it now. They did, and they do. So, you know, if you're just riding in there taking up space because, hey, it's a good check, you enjoy doing it, and you're just good enough to hang in there, and you got enough good sponsors that you had over the years. I mean, and the difference between bass fishing and, say, baseball or football, you can stay in there till you're a 90-year-old. You know, I'm not saying that's bad. I'm 50, right? But, you know, come on. Sometimes it's time to just cull the herd. You know what I'm saying? It's time to cull. That's right. His change. Now, Lowbrow, you down south. Where do you go ice fishing? I know it don't get that cold. You don't even see snow. I'll probably bring you up here and it'd flake or two, and you'd be like, what's that? It's cocaine falling from the sky? I'm kidding. What's up, Big Jim Fishing? Another great YouTube channel right there. You guys should go check out. Yeah, imagine sailing without knowing how to read the stars or a compass. Whew. Hey, listen, I'm so old, I remember before GPS. I sit back and think about it now and go on some of these new lakes, and I go, man, it's a miracle I ain't dead. Customizing colors does make fishing more fun. Anytime you make your own. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. You know, first few things I learned to fish was a worm, a jig, and a spinnerbait and a jerkbait. That's probably, and a popper. Christian Nichols sucks as FFS. That's what it is. I'm kidding. He lives on that lake up there. He's got a great little learning spot in his backyard. That's one of my buddies, Christian Nichols, right there. Oh, crap. What just happened? Thing just jumped on me. I can neither confirm nor deny that, but it is my last one. Detroit River. That'd be a fun place to go fishing. Yeah, very much. I could see that very much being a lot like, you know, it is down here because they're so open. Look, I like Bradley Hillman, but this is the second time. That's all I'm saying. Second. Good dude. I know him. But listen, man, the rigors of pro tournament fishing is not for everybody. You got to really want to be out there. And Bradley's good enough to be out there. That's not what I'm saying at all. I love Larry Nixon. I'm going to miss Larry Nixon. I watch his show all the time. I've met Larry Nixon years ago. Great guy. I wished I was 25. I probably act like I'm 3, according to my wife, but okay. Yeah, you know, I agree. All the politics and stuff. Yeah. Listen, I don't care about politics. There's 2 things you'll never hear me talk about: politics and religion. because I think all of it's crooked. We'll just stop right there. The most productive bait for me in 2023. And guys, go watch the buyer's guide, because everything I caught fish on, every rod, every reel, everything that's helped me catch fish this year is in there. The most productive bait, hidden spook, which brings me back to the segue. Following these bass and fishing for them. So as we discovered these bass out over open water, we tried a lot of different things. And it really come to find out, we were having so much more luck calling these schools up from 15, 20, 25, 35 feet in this clear water. Remember, for you guys that's just jumping in, we're finding these summer bass out in open water related to huge areas of broken up balls of shad. No onesies, twosies, they're hard to catch, so we focused on these big groups, 20 to 100 to 200 bass in these big groups at the visibility level. That's from there, like you wouldn't find them unless they were really pushing shad up to the surface. You wouldn't find them more than 15 feet shallow. And so what ended up happening in late August, where I live, as soon as the water temp started to drop, the nights got shorter, the nights got colder. Those shad began to move. And we learned this the hard way. Took a buddy up there to show him what I'd found, and bam, they were gone. We caught two, but we were in the wrong place. There's always a few ahead and a few behind, right? Took my buddy Tyrone up there, and, I caught like a 4-pound smallmouth, and he caught, I think, maybe a three something largie, but we caught them all on top water. And in that clear water, I think they're a little more susceptible to top water that time of year, because it breaks up the water. So it could be a high, slick day, but as that bait walks, they can only see so much of it. And I'll tell you, cadence is it changes your cadence on your jerk baits on your top water, because a lot of times what I do is I throw it out there and hit it either just past them or right above them, and give it 2-3 walks. And as soon as they start coming up, especially because you got to remember, these are largemouth predominantly. And when those largemouths started coming up, largemouth are like me, they ain't running that far for a meal. So you kind of had to sit there and wait on them. And then once they'd get up there, and you'd almost think, well, they should be hitting at any time. You couldn't tell where they were as to the bait. If they looked like one dot. Then you just went twitch, twitch, twitch. And on that third twitch, they'd crush it. Now, the prank played a big role, the booyah prank. And I think the booyah prank, when they kind of got, once you'd catch 2 or 3 of them out of a school, if you got that prank up there and you just popped it, they would come up to it, and sometimes they wouldn't hit it, and they didn't seem to like that big bloop. They wanted it to spit like a little dying bait fish. You got to remember, most of the bait fish that they were targeting were 3 inches top American shad on this lake. And so what was really cool is, if they didn't like it, you could just slow roll that prank just under the water, and you could watch them just come up and just start swinging at it when you did that. And sometimes they would actually hit it once it stopped and floated back to the surface. And I think topwater worked so well is because during the summer, it just broke up the profile of the bait. Because you got to remember, in 15 foot of water, guys, I've fished clear water lakes all my life. And I've even fished them Demiki rigging vertically. And I've watched bass come up when there's 2 foot visibility off the bottom from 30 feet when that bait is 10 foot down. So they're seeing that bait from 20 feet away. So they can see so much better than we can. I had a in-dash flasher too, man. I thought it was awesome. It's still, that's the first Livescope. I mean, because you could see them moving up and down, you know. Born and raised in Chicago. I knew you didn't have you didn't sound like you was from Louisiana. Go Bears. Yes. You know way more about snow than I do. 2 foot here and it's a blizzard. A foot. It's a blizzard. All right. If more pros and others are using forward facing sonar techniques that utilize the feature, do you think then it makes bass less weary of older? Yes. Because I can tell you right now, I seen as we followed these bass moved 5 miles, guys, from the place we found them in July. And we found them at, we'll say, the first third of a major creek, right? Major river channel. And so once that temperature started dropping, they slowly started moving their way out. Like I said, I brought Tyrone up there, totally ruined his day with 2 fish catches and promised him all this fun. We come back up about 2-3 days later, and I'd noticed these shad down there, and this is kind of how we got on it. We pull up on these shad. Sure enough, there they were. It was the rain video. If you haven't seen that, where we're out in the rain. Few weeks later, we come back, we go over and we look. That's not there. They've already moved down or around the corner out to the main lake of this lake. Remember, it's a canyon lake. So, you know, there's not a huge kind of main lake body. It's just kind of like a big canyon river, right? No current, though. It's dammed up. It's a reservoir. And so what ends up happening is they had moved from the first time we actually found those schools to the second time. And, you know, I'd fished for them enough and followed these schools around. A lot of people ask, well, how do you know these are the same fish? You just kind of, each school kind of, the more you're following it and you're watching it, it's almost like it takes on a personality of its own, right? So there would be probably 8-10 of these schools in this area, and the shad would be probably about an 1/8 mile, you know, just where it was just so loaded in. And so, you know, we would just move down. So we found them in another place. Jeremy comes with me one day. We're in the wrong place. We find them at the end of the day. You know, we catch a couple, but it's already kind of too late. And then we come back again. We really know what we're looking for. We jump right on them. We catch a bunch. Now they're all the way at the dam. We have a great day there with my buddy Shane. And then the last video that dropped the other day, they'd kind of, you know, my honest opinion is the big schools had fed up and they were done, because I started noticing as they were where they were, they started going about 45 feet deep down to the dam. We started kind of chasing these onesie twosies with the BR fish, and that BR fish would catch those. I mean, it was catching those. And so I'm kind of going to give you my hypothesis when I answer some more questions about bass's movement. I don't think this is all bass. I think what I've learned is that there is, and we all know this, there's multiple groups of fish. One of the things that I just kind of stumbled across was how we talk about shad and bass move into the backs of creeks. Now, this is about to get really interested, what I'm about to tell you there. Big Malone. Yes, I talked to John the other day. He is coming back. We do live in igloos. Listen, igloos are cool, man. Yeah, we'll miss KVD. Now, KVD was one of those guys. He didn't have to leave, man. He was still good. But KVD's devoted a lot of time, a lot of years to it. And yeah, you got to, you know, bass and passion. That right there says it all. You know, look, there is nothing wrong with enjoying fishing. That's what I said earlier. If guys just want to get out and they want to do the things they want to do, for me, what's fun about this is that the way I look at it, it's like for most of us in school, we learned about the scientific method, right? So you create a hypothesis, you test and create a theory with tests, and then if it all pans out, you have a law, right? A scientific law. That's kind of what I'm looking at. I'm taking all this knowledge that I've had from 30 plus years of fishing, and I'm saying, okay, let's go out here and look for these fish the way we normally do. It's not like I'm just going out and randomly going, there's a dot, woo! I'm going, let's go out here and look for these fish the way we normally have, and let's see where they are. And then let's think about it in some sort of scientific method. If those bass just aren't there anymore, where'd they go? Let's go find that. We might not be able to catch them, but we can still see them, right? And that's the cool part about it. And as those bass moved to their last little spot, that's what ended up happening. I went up there. I was going to fish a little tournament. I felt good about it. Hadn't got to practice. Hadn't been up there in 2 weeks. Temperature had dropped. We'd got down to where we had last found those bass, and the shad was gone. They'd moved to the banks, and they'd moved to the bottom. They were deep. And what ended up happening is those bass had moved to the banks, 40, 45 feet deep. And I know this because I went back to the stuff that I know and how to break down a lake. I go to a small point. There's a laydown. I throw that BR fish to try and call anything up on that laydown. I call up a huge school of bass. And I'm like, that school looks a lot like one of my schools. And so I go popping around where I see a few fish, and I'm throwing baits to get those bass to move, to come up off the bottom and look. And I start finding school after school after school. Now, they wasn't biting, moving baits, and I would very much say if I took like maybe a drop shot or a jig or something like that and really focused on those bass, that I probably could have got a few bites. But, I still hadn't figured it out in my head yet, so I went looking for shad. And this is when I remembered I seen some shad fry in these creeks. Let me go look. Now, what's cool about that is we went into these creeks. Now, you got to remember, it's the time of year now. They're lowering the lakes for flood control where I'm at, and they'll drop the lakes here, 15, 20, depending on the lake you're on, to 30, 35 foot deep. And so at that time, I think the lake was down 15 feet. And so I go, graphing back in, using my side and my down. We find some shad. We catch a catfish. We catch a dink bass. But we don't see any bass really. And they're about middle third of the lake, middle third of the creek arm back. We don't see any, groups of fish. So we go to this other creek where I know that I've caught bass in the fall before. And suddenly here's huge balls of shad and huge balls of bait or fish, right? Bass. Now, this is a hypothesis, right? This is a hypothesis because I haven't got to go test this yet. But those shad, when I seen them the first time, were farther back in the creeks during the summer. Running water creeks. And that's a big key to me. I've always keyed in the fall on active creeks, right? Active water. And because that's your shad it's going to wash things into the lake, and they're going to feed. And if your shad are going to be there, so are your bass. But I'm beginning to wonder if we don't have two groups. Like those bass that I followed initially for 5 miles down the lake, are those bass a completely different group of bass, which I know they are. And are those just what I call the open water bass? They're halfway in the creek, halfway in the major river, and they've just moved down to their winter spots. Now, these bass, as the water falls, have we got it wrong, at least on the highlands reservoirs where they drop water? Now, on natural lakes, I'm sure it's not, but I don't have a lot of experience doing that. Lowland lakes, I know they move up into bays and that sort of stuff and up into the shallows. But I'm wondering if we don't have it wrong, and it's not that the shad are moving up and the bass are moving up into the creeks, but instead the water is beginning to push those bass back, push those shad back. They're pulling out. And so, it's kind of like stacking, and they're congregating, they're pulling back out, because I'll bet these are resident to those creeks. These are resident fish, resident bass, resident shad, and they live in there all the time. So we've got two different groups of fish. Now the question is now, how many different groups do we have? How many groups do we have that might live in a tree or around brush their whole lives? That's what's cool about getting to do what I've done this year. And you guys might think I'm crazy. Hell, I might be crazy. I mean, but I'm just sharing with you what I've seen so far, like what I've seen and where I've caught them. So I know these fish are bass because I caught 2 out of that. And every place I've seen the shad spawn, shad fry, we've seen shad, large groups, now they're there. And they're definitely moving different. Like all those fish didn't come out. All those fish didn't move down and then move back up to a creek, because there was a creek right beside where all those bass chased down to the dam, and they wasn't in there. So it's really interesting. It's really interesting on what we're learning, what I'm learning. And I can't wait for over the next year or two to just learn more and more. I'll second that. God is good. Enough about religion. It's not God that I think is, Okay, we're going to stop that. Love Danny Brower. Got a great story about that. Back when BASS ran the Bass University, they had one in Roanoke, Virginia, which I'm about 3 hours away from. And Danny Brower was going to be there on the second day of it. Larry Nixon was there on the first day. I got to meet him. So I went to eat. My brother who went with me, he had done 8. He was in the hotel room. And so I went down, and it was just me and Danny Brower. Danny Brower comes walking in, and he goes over and sits down. Man, it took all the courage in my body to stand up, walk over and say, Mr. Brower, it's an honor. I won't drive you crazy. I promise I'll be respectful. But it'd be an honor if you broke bread with me. And he did. And we sat there and, we talked, and for about 30 minutes we ate, and, it was an honor, man. It was cool. One of the coolest moments of my life. How's it going, Faith First? Master jig fisherman. I hope you're talking about you, Go Fish goes. Sometimes I like to master those straight out of my boat, even though I love them some days. A single fish. I tell you what, I'm going to tell you, Triple. I literally looked at my buddy. We caught so many fish this year and had so many good days on the top water. I looked at my buddy and I said, God, I know. All of you who are about to hear me say this, go ahead and, you can punch me, in the face right now. I literally looked at my buddy and said, gosh, I hope they'll buy something different than a top water, because we're making too many top water videos. But I got to fish for what's biting, and who don't want to catch them on top water? Yeah, man, Denny was a beast. Yeah, man. I in clear water, I just think that's one of the best baits ever designed, just because of how well it'll walk. Man, look, and that's the deal, guys. I'm blessed. And I'm blessed with you guys being here with me. Because if not for you, there's no way I'd have a Camus out there. I wouldn't have the opportunity to do this. I love my Triton. I didn't sell my Triton. I still got it out there because I just don't know when Camus is going to come pick that boat up. And it's paid. My Triton's paid for it. But, listen, I fished out of a John boat. Not a fancy John boat either. I mean, a straight, bought it at Walmart. I think it's called a Fishmaster, 14-footer, 90% of my life. So, guys, just go fishing. It don't matter. You know, I would fish this way. It's not about the tournaments for me. It's not about social media for me. I mean, it's not. Social media, it's really cool that I get to hang out with you guys and help you guys fish and show you guys the things that I'm learning, because to me, that's what it really is all about. And, you know, I didn't have that. And so it took me a long time to gain enough confidence to even be able to enter a tournament, much less get on this and talk to you all about fishing. I mean, depends on time of year. Do I prefer a smaller large worm when I'm fishing? Summertime, it's going to be a large worm. I am a huge, mag trick worm and trick worm guy. And if it's real tough and the water's real clear and I'm having to fish in open water, I'm going to downsize. I turned a Massachusetts crappie straight tail into a wake bait. That's cool. By adding a fat boot tail, makes it rise. That's really cool. See, that's the cool stuff about fishing. Think outside the box. You know, think outside the box. Yeah, and that's tough, man. I always underestimate how, clear the water is in my local lake. And I always say, if it is XYZ clarity, depth clarity, fish 5 feet minimum below that. What worm colors do you wish they made? I don't know, man. I keep things pretty simple, straightforward. Realistically, I keep it pretty straightforward, pretty easy. Green pumpkin magic, watermelon candy, watermelon red. What is it? The blue crawl. A little bit of blue. A mica powder to my plastics. See, y'all make a lot of baits. I don't make a lot of baits. I just want to go fish them. Yeah. Yeah, I've got one of those too, man, and I don't fish it enough, and I'm really sad about it. I really should be fishing it more. Man, a culprit is a good one. I do like look, during the early summer, give me a ribbon tail, dropping it down and around timber. I just feel like use it. Listen, guys, I'm going to tell you right now. You want me to tell you what the whole Bassmaster? But leather stock angler, I'm going to tell you, I'll bet you 110% with a Livescope, you'd know it better. And it'd surprise you. It surprised me on a lake I've fished since I was a kid. And, look, I'm going to tell you exactly what Bassmaster told all its anglers before they announced or told Humminbird, because Humminbird is one of their biggest sponsors. I'll tell you exactly what they told Humminbird. They said, listen, guys, you keep writing them checks. We're going to tell everybody for show that we're going to seriously look at outlawing Forward Faceing Sonar. And they went and they talked to the anglers, and then they went back and said, yeah, we're good. They don't care. I promise you. They got to have all the money they can right now. How do you feel the results? Okay, you've got to tell me the results would turn out. Thanks for hanging out with me, but the results of what? I may have missed that. Man, I'm doing great. I really appreciate you all. Bearded Fishing Chats. Hey, I am doing very well. No. I mean, that's like people comparing it to spotlighting deer. No, because trust me, you shine it on them all day. But see, that's the thing, man. You got to understand it. They are getting more and more knowledgeable. Now, is it the baits? Is it the boat? Is it because 90% of the time, these fish that I'm fishing for out in open water, do you think anybody else is fishing for those or has that don't have forward facing sonar? No, no. I mean, it's bass will catch on. I used to be able to throw 30 foot out. If they're 30 foot close, don't even cast at them. They're not going to bite it. It's just like the minnow baits. How many of those minnow baits are they going to see in that clear water? How many are they going to see in the dirty water before they're used to it? Before they go, I know what that is. I've had that in my face a couple times. So they're not. It is good seeing me do a live. I mean, I enjoy it. I miss you guys, but like I said earlier, it's really, really tough. The nights, man, if I'm off because I work 12-hour swing shifts, it's I get to spend this. It's the time I get to see my family. The wife works, and as much as I might want to strangle them at times, I do love them for the most part. Listen, if y'all don't think a belly weighted fluke don't catch fish, y'all need to go back and watch that video. Do I think it would turn out different? Yeah, But I mean, okay, let's look at it like this. I've been catching all these fish out during the daytime. Well, it's taken, anywhere from 9 to 15 pounds to win night tournaments. I mean, why do we fish night tournaments? Come on, let's be honest. Ain't it because fishing's easier? The big ones are easier to catch during the summertime. They don't stop eating during the daytime. I prove that. So, do the pros fish night tournaments? Should we outlaw night tournaments? Ain't that shoot fish and barrel? Because they pull up shallow? Outlaw night tournaments. There's a lot that goes into that. Yes, I mean, I love fishing the BFLs. But, and I may fish one or two, but there's also a lot of other stuff going on, and I don't know how that's going to work out financially. Yeah. I mean, man, I'm straight. I got my own opinion. We all know what opinions are like, right? Well, like I said, and there's a lot of guys, man, that's got the forward facing sonar and a lot of pros, and they don't want to share this stuff with you. But I want to share this even with you guys that don't have it, because I want to cut your time down. If I'm learning from it, let me share that to you and the parts that you can use without a forward-facing sonar. And so far, realistically, other than just being able to follow these bass around, you can use a lot of it. A lot of these guys, like when I went to this lake, like I know during the summertime, there's a topwater busting. Well, what these guys don't know, and there's a lot of guys that would be out there in these areas throwing at these bass topwater or busting. But what they don't realize is that those bass move. You can chase that bite forever. Well, at least until I think it was end of October. Yeah, it's freaking great. Man, me and you both on that buggy. Let me just bring my boat. We'll go wherever you want. I do. Listen, that is one thing though, right there. I need to get better with grass. I just don't have a lot of experience with grass. Pouring plastics. Ooh, good one. What lure do you feel is overrated? Oh man. Gosh, what was I thinking about? There was one. The Hellraiser. I don't remember who it was. We were talking about that from Z-Man. Highly overrated. I don't know. There's a bunch. What's the one little walking bait by Bill Lewis? That's another one. Overrated. What's some baits you guys think are overrated? That's a good question. I mean, there's a bunch for me. Like, well, you know, I get it. Okay, guys. Oh, a lot of pike. Listen, that's one thing I'm so happy. We don't. There's some muskie. There's some walleye. We don't have no pike, thank God. I am selling Saber Outdoors. I did. Well, I've started working with Camus, and Camus wants me in a new boat. So I do have the boat up for sale. So if anybody's interested in a brand new boat that's been treated extremely well and is beautiful that I don't really want to sell, but I have to, it's loaded to the gills, holler. You know, man, my favorite lipless, I don't really have a favorite lipless. This is one thing about me, guys. You'll understand. I look at everything as a tool and the right tool for the situation. Some of my favorites. If I'm burning, I love a Booyah. I forget the name. I always forget their name. A Strike King, grind the nose off those suckers up shallow in the spring and in the early fall if they're pulling up on flats. And it leans forward if you burn it real quick. So that big wide nose that almost acts like a square bill, so it'll deflect real well. Then I like the the rattle trap, like if I'm just hopping or slow rolling. What's the daggone, you would ask me this and I can't remember. Oh man, any of those shapes. And then I keep wanting to say Lucky Craft. What's the Lucky? I can't remember that. And then there's another one I like during the wintertime, and it's a half-ounce size. It's I keep wanting to say Pradco. It's not Pradco. It's I've gone brain dead. Sorry. I failed you, Christopher. Sorry. Yeah, it's true. Let's see. I should be at the East Tennessee Fishing Show, Big Jim. I should very much be. From my understanding, I am going to be there, but we'll have to see. I know Camus is wanting me to come out to Oklahoma, so I still really haven't nailed down the schedule for next year of where I'm going and what I'm doing. Cedar Creek, I'd like to. That'd be fun. Lots of grass. Like I said, that's something. The Chopo, a whopper plopper in general. You know, that type of bait, maybe. Yeah. Jackhammer. Gosh, I can say yay or nay. I could say the chatterbait in general for where I live. Green baits. What's going on, Codfish 180? Yeah, now see, you guys might fish a little more grass than me, so, and that's where that thing shines. That's one thing. So if things do go right, and like I said, you know, a lot of it will depend on the money. If I try to do this full time, you know, I might be broke as a joke. So, you know, fishing will have to stay pretty close. Lucky Craft, thank you. Thank you, Saber. Yes, the LV 500. That's a good one that I like to hop, slow roll. Profound was the heavy one, the Heavy Z, the Shaker Heavy Z. That was the one I liked during the wintertime. There you go. See, Christopher, I got you. I come back around, man. Come back around. What's going on, Mr. Tackle Junkie? I ain't talking to you until you eat some biscuits and gravy. I demand it happen. For all you that don't know, Tackle Junkies never eat biscuits and gravy. He's failed as a man. What's going on, Tin Horse? How's it going, man? Good to see you. Hey, another good YouTube channel right there, by the way, both of these fellas. And Saber Outdoors there. And Tackle Junkie and Tin Horse Monty. Good dudes. Tin Horse does some good live streams. What am I throwing this weekend? Nothing, because I'm going to be working. I'll probably be throwing a computer across the room. You know, keyboard. If I was going out fishing right now, I would probably, it would definitely be, because we're into that situation. I'm going to have a finesse jig. I'm going to have a drop shot. I'm going to have a Ned rig, because if I'm going, I'm probably going to South Holston, which means I'm going to be targeting smallmouth. I'm going to have a Bomber Long A for a wake bait. I'm going to have my prank tied on. They killed that the last time I was up there, just doing some recon. Sorry. No. Well, I did a short showing me catch one. Going to have some BR fish. Going to have some small swim baits, because last time I was up there, they were from literally like, you know, 50 to 5 feet or 10 feet. So, you know, got to have a couple different sizes. But that's pretty much probably what I'd be doing. You know, found a couple of schools on some points, that sort of stuff. So that's where my drop shot Ned, small jig. I'd have probably a couple of jerk baits, like hard jerk baits tied on. It's getting about that time. They're dropping the lake, so should be dirtying up a little bit. Should be turning over. He does. I agree. I think I said that. Now that I don't know. I don't know. I've never fished PA. So I'm going to let somebody else answer that question. Oh, yeah. I do like a crankbait, of course. Wacky rig, man. Tube. A wacky rig, though, would have to be seriously weighted. Crankbait, possibly. Spy bait, definitely. You know, probably some big swim baits, but right now, probably going to focus on those smaller swim baits, possibly an A rig, depending on where they're at and what they're doing, and if I got a little bit of wind. What's going on, Bassless Chat, man? Hope you're catching some. Now, let's finish up the whole tracking the bass thing. So, in the end, and what I hope to really learn, is are these bass, two separate groups? Are the bass that I found the other day in the creeks, because I haven't been able to go back since I found that. And, I know I found those bass that I'd chased for 5 miles from spring to late fall, early winter. They're still there. Can I get them to bite? Now we've got to say, okay, what happens? Because a lot of times what happens is as it gets colder, those shad will begin to move off the banks and suspend again, and those bass will pull out there with them again. So, are those bass in those creeks, are they going to move to that mid? Because you got to remember, when I say mid creek, man, when I found those bass back to middle third, we're still talking about that they were over 35, 45 foot of water. Okay. And they dropped the lake 15 feet. So there's no such thing as shallow where I fish at. But if I go out fishing right now, I'm bringing a pillow and a Lunchable. Well, has it gotten that bad up there? A-rigs are great. A-rigs, I tell you what, though, I love an A-rig in the spring when they start pulling up on those laydowns of brush piles. Great stuff. But it started out really rough for me, and I've had probably one of the best fishing years I've had in maybe 3-4 years. And I think a lot of that is just because I've made sure not just to focus on the YouTube thing and just get out there and go fishing. Just, it seems like over the past 3 years, I keep spending less and less time on the water, and you get so disconnected. It really is. If you're going to catch them good all the time, or a lot of the time, they do not make a weedless. It's kind of one of those things you're either going to fish it over or around. But, you really got to get out there and keep in contact with the bass. That's one of the things I like. But it was really fun, man. It's really been really fun learning about these lakes, and then, with the Livescope and these fish movements and being able to go to other lakes, slowly kind of branching out and seeing where these movements actually take place, and seeing if we're actually looking at different groups of bass doing different things. So that's going to be the funnest part of this for me. What discontinued bait would you like to steal back in production? It is the power bait shaky head worm. They came out when they had, what was it they came out with after the shaky head? It was in the black pack. They called it something different, and it was the same worm. It was just thinner. I didn't like it. Got to have my girth, man. You know how it is. Got to be girthy. Hey, man, I think that's actually great. I mean, nobody wants to see a company as well known and as being around for as long as Lucky Strike disappear. They're a good company. I know they make a deep diving square bill. I don't know if they make it anymore, but I loved. You know what? I have to agree with that. But now, Lure Lab, when we're talking about BR heads, it's different. It's not the bait. It's a combination of the bait and the head. It's not just you know, I don't know if there's any other heads out there, but to get the action that you're getting out of that, like I said, this little thing right here, if you cut the tail off, but the difference between this and the Demiki Armor Shad, the Demiki Armor Shad paddle tail does not have a thing down the middle. Then Shaky Snake, take a drink. Unfortunately, I'm out, but I've got a Mountain Dew Zero right here. Yay! So I will. Because it is hot as Hades in my room right now. I don't know what's going on. I think it's supposed to be fairly warm tomorrow in the 70s. I think you'd be really surprised. I'd love to take you down here. So, and you know, when you say two homes, what do you mean? Because I think these bass really relate to shad, to their food source. I'm telling you, man, I've been throwing more and more of traditional thinking out the windows. Now, listen, I know you can sit and say, and that's why a lot of guys get mad when I start talking about it. They start going, well, I've caught them. Well, just because you caught them there don't mean that they're not moving. That's not a passing by spot. Well, they'll be there all year. Are they active? I've seen a lot of bass on points, and I could have gone and thrown a jig and thrown this and thrown that and caught some of them. But active bass are out here doing X, Y, Z. So you got to, I think it just comes down to, you know, a buddy of mine told me in tournament fishing, somebody's always catching them, but it doesn't mean you're not around the fish. It just means you're not around the fish that are biting. Love a belly weight. Well, I think it's more that the shad were moving on what I've found. Again, this particular Highlands Lake, I think the shad are moving more so than the bass. The bass are just following them and feeding. And that was the 5 mile movement. If you found those shad, because you weren't seeing the bass, and the bass wasn't sitting on the banks from at least when we first got to this lake in July to late October, these bass did not relate to structure. Trust me, I followed them. They weren't relating to a creek channel. They weren't relating to a point. They were relating to shad. Large amounts of shad. No, I'd say it. No. And the reason why I say that is because I've got a lot of guys who are bait makers and they love it. And then people find their baits and then they never get to go fishing. There you go. Yes, I do. I like it about this time of year. I haven't got to do it as much as I wanted. And a little bit colder. So like I said, right about now to about the end of this month and early spring. About the same time, I like to throw a Alabama rig. Okay. Are we fishing grass? Clear water, light wind, 75? 75 water temps or 75 give me water clarity too. Come on. Clear water. Oh, you did. Sorry. What do you consider clear? Well, you can learn a lot in them small lakes. I have. Turtleback. What? I don't know. Missed that one. And that will absolutely, Jonathan, that will absolutely change the bass's movements and what they do. So shad is they're an open water creature. I mean, they are. They're an open water creature for the most part. You know, they're going to stay out there in that open water for the most part, you know, unless they're spawning or, you know, they're trying to heat up. And then different shad, gizzard, alewives, you know, threadfin. I'm just talking about the shad that we have around here. Will do different things. Alewives, they're a herring. They like to go deep. Gin clear, 70 water temps. Grass. Did you answer that one? Did I miss it? Oh, the Berkeley turtleback worm. I don't think I've seen that. On a turd, a TRD, yes. On a poop bait, not yet, but I got a couple and I want to try them. Especially for open water fish. I think they'll work. Yeah, I've tried this. Hold on. I might have to take my headphones off. Now, these were sent to me by a company called Raid. Now, I haven't tried these yet, but I did try this one. They come up, but they just wouldn't hit it, them open water fish. But, which the one I was trying is in the boat. I swear, though, I think this might work. These little ones, especially this one, I really think might be something that that gets me bit when they're out there in open water or when they're biting. Okay. Yeah, well. I just had a bait avalanche happen there. I have not caught anything, but I really haven't fished one either. I've got a couple. The missile baits one. I do. I use on almost all my swim baits and all my minnow baits, like my Dominky style baits. I use Smelly Jelly, XXX. Really good stuff. It's made of shad. They just mash them up and put some Vaseline in there. And a little bit of glitter, which I like. And if you like a little bit of glitter, you can put a little bit more glitter in there. When the bass come up and hit them, that glitter looks like scales falling off. Good little trick. $39.99 tip there. Always vegetation when I fish. By the way, sorry, I'm reading ahead. And I have started playing with bait fuel some. So I feel like it's helped get a few finicky bites. Okay, how many of you all out there, because I don't have this on my boat and I have been trying to get it. Oh, it's just so expensive. Like, it just makes me mad how expensive it is. It's a joke. Is the Hydrowave, believe or not? I haven't got to try it on these open water fish, and I really think it'll work, man. I really think it'll work. Vegetation where I fish, oh, man, I got to throw a chatterbait to start with then. I mean, I got to. But you're probably talking to the wrong guy when it comes to vegetation. Topped out, matted out. A big spook too. Down where you're at, not a spook, not a big spook, a big fluke spook, you know, one of those. Big spook might work too. Yeah, it's giant. You know, I've got a ton of rat baits and some really good ones, and I really, really, really need to put those to use. Gotta love a good crawler. You know, I've got the smelly jelly crawfish, and I don't know. It's just like it's not. I don't know. Maybe I know. I guess because I know I'm throwing at fish that I know are there, and that's the difference. But we might have to try that throwing at some of those fish that we're seeing on the bottom. Ooh, a buzzbait. God, how did I leave that out? 70 plus degree water. I fail. A failure. I should just bash my skull in right now because I mean I love a buzzbait. Now let me ask you a question. Lowbrow. Do I ever use live bait? No, I mean I have. I haven't done it in a long time, but there's a lot of times when I've been like especially when you're out on a lake and you're trying to figure out where they're at, I do wish I had some minnows. I ain't gonna lie. Just to tell me, is that a bass down there 75 feet deep or a walleye? If it's a walleye, he's going home. If he's in, the limit, he's going to the house. But we don't eat him. But that's a good. So in my lakes where it's clear, just mainly rocky, few laydowns here and there, probably my go-to bait is really a smaller when it comes to a buzz bait. It's a smaller buzz bait. I like a gold blade. I like a more of a green pumpkin trailer because the bluegill tend to stay up shallower, than the shad do. On and around grass, are you better with a bigger blade? Because I have fished some grass and, like spinner baits and stuff like that seem to work well, like over the holes and, of course, traps. It seems like for whatever reason, they want to hear it coming. Ditches. Man, that's a lot. I just, for the most part, and I might get some hate for this, but I am a Southern boy, so I just flay them out and fry them up, Moo Maw, this sounds familiar, but I'm going to say no. Seems like I have heard about this. So let me ask you guys a question. For all of you all that's been watching the videos consistently, how do you feel the level of video, and I categorize my videos two different ways. So fishing on the water, it is a fishing video. We're catching fish. We're talking about the day on a lake, right? Maybe that would make it clear. And our how-tos. So, I've kind of gone away from just breaking down a whole bunch, a category of bait and start talking about like individual baits, which I find fun. And there's a lot of different ones out there. So how do you all feel the videos are looking, progressing? They're keeping you entertained and interested. How do you? Because I feel like, and don't say this, but I don't want to say this because I'm afraid you guys will just tell me what I want to hear. Don't tell me what I want to hear. I know every single one of you guys that's pretty much in this has been hanging out with me for quite a while. So, like, I feel like we're putting out some of the best edited shot. Can we always do better? Yeah, absolutely. I've not seen a video that is perfect yet. When I do, I'll probably quit. So it'll probably never happen. But how do you feel the videos are looking? How do you feel that they're put together? Any critiques, are there? Yeah, 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 yeah. Of course, a frog. Something I don't get to throw except every once in a while in the spring up here. Ooh, mind reader, mind reader. I think so. And he's getting better. And I want to kind of, I need to help him, a little bit getting the shots that I want. He don't like to get up there in my way. But, sometimes for the sake of the video, I mean, he needs to come on up there and get a few shots. But he's doing great. He's doing great. I think he's helping a lot. Even making me want to invest in an actual camera and not use my phone. I mean, if I do, I'm not going to spend a bunch of money on it. But I think it's really helping me, like some of the, some of the top water bites, him being able to get those shots. Where if you got a chesty or a camera on the back, you don't ever know what you're shooting, truthfully. On a spinner bait. No, but there's a bait out there. Somebody's making a bait like that. Now, Queen's Tackle makes blades that you can put on like any kind of head. Those are real cool. I've got some of those. And I fished a lot of swim baits with that, especially during the spring when the water starts coming up and it gets dirty. Man, listen, it takes a minute to get used to. It takes a minute to get used to get the pop. You'll have to, move your rod angle around, but play with it. I'm telling you, this thing is amazing. It has caught so many fish for me. Yeah, and I'm going to try and get better at those. Those are some of the hardest because, listen, guys, I will always be a bass angler first and a YouTuber second. And, like I've said on here, fishing in my lakes, man, it's tough. And so, I I focus, man. It takes everything I've got to put 5 in the boat some days, most days. And, you start catching 6 or 7 on some of these lakes and you're doing great. And, I've got to the stuff that's going through my head, the conversations that I'm having with me. And I think Mike's really going to help bring this out. I need to be turning around and saying so that, I want to get it to the point to where it's like you're there with me because you are there with me. And I need to understand that. I think that's the next sort of progression on those day on the lake videos. Thank you. Like I said, and like I said, I'm not just talking about the day on the lakes. I mean, the how-tos. And I keep, there's so much. I try to keep the how-tos really short. I don't want to pack in. I just want to keep it short, sweet, to the point. Well, it's getting about unboxing time. So the unboxings are coming. I'm not. I agree. I mean, I'm not. Thank God. Yeah, thank God. Lord, laugh. Finished my sentence before I even got to it. Speaking of frogs, popping frog you sent me last year. I don't know. Was it a... My favorite two is a Booyah and a Spro, but I'd almost bet it was one of the Booyah Pad Crasher Popping Frogs. Hey, look, it's different being a viewer as opposed to being like, I know all the crap behind the scenes, and I try to do my research because that's just who I am, and apply some of that stuff to my videos. But hey, as a viewer, you know what your reaction is to certain things, so you can always comment. I try to keep up on that stuff. I mean, you got to remember, like I said, I fish some pretty weird lakes. So, for me, it's a lot about just what's going to work for me, because, I don't fish, it's like, I tell this story all the time. It's like my buddy from South Carolina, when I went down and fished Hartwell and I never can remember that other lake, Clark's Hill, with him. I was amazed at how far we could be off the bank and yet how shallow we were. Like, that blew my mind. Like, we were so far off the bank, like you couldn't cast to the edge of the water. And we were in like 11 feet, 12 feet. And I was like, what? That just don't happen where I'm at. It's good. So, like, here he was throwing, oh God, what was it? He started catching them on. I don't even remember. Like, I started looking around at my baits, and I was like, God, if I'm going to start moving around and fishing some other lakes, I've got to get some shallower diving stuff. As far as hard baits, because I think he was throwing a frit side, like 3 to 5. I didn't even bring any square bills with me. So, gotcha. Switchblades. Yeah. The switchblades. Huh. I can see that. From Queens. One day I have caught, I think it was a little over, they were all dinks now, don't get me wrong. There might have been a few 3-pounders in there. One day, and most of them were on top water, and I don't know the exact count, but I want to say 103 to 110, somewhere in there. Now, on some of these little lakes over in Virginia, like, a good day there is like I had a 13-day on Top Secret Lake P. That was the second best day that I've ever had on that lake. Most of the time, like, you're doing great to put 5 keepers in the boat. Challenge videos, man. That kind of goes back to the type of lakes I fish. And like, I don't get to fish, like, where I'm in the mountains, there's just no ponds. It's all like either reservoirs or like rivers and creeks. And that's why I don't do a lot of challenge videos. That's why I don't do, like that's one of the biggest reasons why I don't do like mystery tackle box stuff, because I mean, it's 90-degree water temps and water that's, 20 foot clear, and you send me a pack of Cincos. That ain't doing me no good. Or a square bill. I ain't completing that challenge. So, hey, listen. Now, listen, I accept nobody in this chat because I know all you heathens. But all you, yeah, I know I'll run out, so I'm drinking freaking Mountain Dew. Lowbrow. But people that comment, most of the time it's guys that just don't, they don't know me. They'll see something. Forward Faceing Sonar is cheating. Well, I've laid the challenge down. So for you all that don't know this, I've laid the challenge down. Every single one of those people that have done that, I've said, okay, I'll give you gas money to get here. I'll pay for your hotel room for one night or 2 nights if you need to. We will take my boat. We will use everything in here. And I mean, I've got probably enough rods and reels. I probably got more rods and reels than my local Bass Pro Shops. And I'm not bragging about that. Again, thank you guys. I'm blessed because of you geeks who hang out with me. And if I don't have it, I'll buy it. You got a rod, you got a reel, or you got not a rod or reel. I ain't buying a rod or reel. I got something that'll work. But if and this is what I've told them. All you got to do is show up and do it in front of the camera. I'll drive you around. You got all the maps, all the tools. We'll go to a lake. 4 to 5 hours, you got to catch 5. If it's that easy, just catch 5 that you see. That you see. Just catch 5 in 4 to 5 hours. But we got to do it while we film. And I ain't going to fish. I'm just going to sit back and talk shit to you the whole time. I had one guy, and I said, no excuses. I've heard all of them. I said, don't be a chicken. His reply back was, bark, bark. Ain't nobody. And I'm telling you, I have issued this challenge to well over 20 people that have made those comments. Because I'll tell you, it's not easy. It's not easy. I mean, and that's what's great. I mean, you'll learn and you've got your lake figured out, and that's good. The thing is the things we don't know. And, that's what makes fishing great is what we don't know. And I enjoy learning that. It's just another tool for me to learn and for me to share with you guys. The thing I've got to get better at is making sure that I'm filming, because the setup on my boat is set up just so I can film that front graph for you guys. I need your baits of November. November right now. I think we went through this earlier. So if I was going out, I'll do it this way: smallmouth, largemouth lake. If I'm going to South Holston, I'm taking drop shot Ned rig finesse jig, heavier finesse jig though. It'll be heavy drop shots because they are liable to be anywhere from, we'll say, 45, 35, we'll say 35 and shallower. Tamiki style bait. So a minnow. Finesse swim bait, one of these right here. This has been big thus far this year. I like the mega bass, but they only make them in up to an 1/8 ounce. It don't do me any good. Those will be probably a popper, an A-rig, a long A, and probably some sort of walking bait. That's going to be where I start. Everything the same on the Bass Lake, minus the jerk baits, hard jerk baits. Everything the same on the largemouth lake that I would go fish, Top Secret Lake F, except the long A. And they do have some smallmouth, but they're few and far between. If I seen them up shallow, I might take a shot at one or two. You'd lose. Not against me, because I'm not gonna. I just want to put you on there and let you do it. Yeah, man. I mean, they're fun. I mean, catching good sized bass or even small bass on light line, light reels, it's a blast. I mean, look at that 8-pound hybrid that I caught on 8-pound test line on a spinning reel. That's a good time. That's a good time. I mean, so are they gimmicks? Well, I mean, there's a lot of things that's gimmicks that are fun to fish, or catch them on. So it just depends. Like, am I gonna do that in a tournament? Probably not. I'll probably just pick up a spinning rod and go at it, right? If they're biting something that small. Gosh, man. Listen, I remember when the Cinco first come out. Me and my son, I had the John boat fishing a lake called Big Cherry Lake. And I'll never forget, man. Like we would line it up on like 10 or 12-pound monofilament, like, smooth casting, Berkeley, 3-aught EWG, Gamakatsu hook. And gosh, I remember taking my son out, and there was a guy, he had a bunch of rods out, and he was fishing shiners. And it come a thunderstorm. We all run back to the bank where the cars were. Smaller lake, trolling motor only lake. And my son hops in the truck, and it comes up, downpour. We jump back out, and that guy's like, man, he's like, y'all are lighting them up. Where do y'all catch them on? We showed him at Cinco, and I gave him a pack of hooks. And I said, dude, just throw it up there and just watch your line until it stops falling. And gosh, man, we could go. And I mean, lakes that are just brutal. This is the spring, brutal. And you could go on those Cincos and it was slow as fishing. But if you just let it drop, a lot of times you wouldn't even feel it. You just see the line swimming off to the side. And, we'd catch 30, 40 bass doing that. Insane. Outdoors. It does change the way you fish, but it's so fun too. I have missed so many fish. Okay. It is like top water all the time, especially when I started like that BR fish, man, when you're sitting there going, and you see that thing, because on the Livescope, all it looks like is that it's just hopping, right? And then all of a sudden you see those fish, and that thing's going 3 foot wide. It's gliding 3 foot wide. And I mean, once you get it down, I mean, you could keep it in the same place almost. I mean, it'll sit still. And those bass will come up, and that thing, here they come back. It's, they're doing this. And I mean, you can't help but swing because they're so excited. You're like, I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've seen them coming at 100. Like I'll throw in like a little Damiki armor shad or a Yum, FF minnow, or one of 20 things I'm using. Gulp minnows. Don't sleep on them. But anyway, you throw them suckers in there, and I mean, it's just falling, and it goes, and you just see them coming, and you go, oh God. You're just, I mean, it's like top water, dude. It's top water all the time. Oh, float tube. Hey, man, we'll get a ram mount. We'll hook it up here. We'll get a strap just around the part of the tube. You got a lot of pike up there and big muskies, right? That scared me. I'd be worried big muskie come up, take a chunk out of my leg. Thank you. Listen. Whew, they good. South Africa. I'll tell you what, if you pay my way, I'll go. I can't afford that plane ticket. with silicone. You know, I don't know, have I fished anything with silicone? I don't know. That's interesting. I've seen you talk about that 2 or 3 times. Oh my God, yeah. That's why you'll never see me noodling. Look, I'm done missing a big toe. You think I ain't losing a thumb or pointer finger. I gotta, I ain't cutting down my nose picking. Man, all the time, grew up fishing Cherokee Lake. I hate that place. I'm kidding. I like Cherokee. I have just fished it so much when I was younger that I am just, every time I go there, I have like this, like, I feel like I was just here. Why am I back at this place? It's a good fishery. You know, you might have missed. I was talking about the Morristown Marine taking a whopping 14 pounds a day to win. It's a tough fishery. It can be great, but wait, what's going? Wait. Oh, silicone. I don't think I've ever used any of it. Sorry, I had to catch up, man. You got to remind me of this stuff. Yeah, I'm probably going to get off here too. Good talking to you, man. You be good. Big Malone, hey, did you ever get your box, man? Did you ever get your box? Wasn't it you that won? No, it was Big Daddy. It was Big Daddy. That's right. Sorry. The big, it's not easy to confuse me either. Yeah, man. Love the Spook Junior Bone. And I'm going to tell you, during the fall, boys and girls, the boyo, when they're chasing those small fish, the Spook boyo, which is even smaller than the Spook Junior. Was it you that won? Okay, I'm gonna have to go back and look. If email me if you won something, because I'm so behind, and I apologize greatly. But if you didn't, I'll get you. Because I'm sure it's laying around here somewhere. Mr. Stout, listen, no, not until they're in stock fully. Man, I ain't got enough to throw in a box. I've been after Duo to send me some more. They said that they're supposed to be coming out. And listen, you guys need to pay attention to Tackle Warehouse and Hooked Up Tackle, man. Be looking, because they should be here, I believe, this week is what they said. Now, I don't know how long it'll take them to stock them and put them on their website, but I was told I should be getting mine this week, I believe it was. I'll have to go back in the email and look. Oh, what box was that? Was it the September box? Was that the Dirty Jigs and the whatever? Who was Nichols? Yeah. Refresh my memory of which box that was, but I'll make sure I get it to you. What's going on, B. Callis Jr.? You want some stuff? Well, I don't have anything to do a giveaway tonight. Hey, but Bassing with Big Malone, make sure you email me tonight or tomorrow. The hookup tackle, too. The hookup tackle. They seem to keep they got a better selection of the BR fish, too. some alternatives that I was telling everybody. The shad-shaped worm, the Damiki paddle tail, not the armor shad, the armor shad paddle tail. I cut the tail off. This one works really good. It's a little stiffer. And there was another one, and I can't remember what it was. Hey, cotton cordell. That was the other trap style bait, lipless. Oh, did you win the J Bros? Because like I was wondering, I don't remember anybody ever saying that. All right, I'll look it up. But again, send me an email. I'll make sure. Because I've got, like I said, that stuff's sitting over here. Gotta love our bass cast. Gotta love them. That's a good, I'm telling you, the one that's dropping tomorrow is great. Pretty please do that because, and I'm sorry, dude. I've got to send something else out tomorrow to one of my buddies. You're crazy. All right, guys. Listen, we've been on here 2 hours. It's time to call it. I never stay on here this long. Hey, I got a P.O. box in the description of almost everything. But I appreciate you guys, man. Or as I say, you geeks. I appreciate y'all hanging out. I know there's a lot going on tonight. And, you know, I just wanted to jump on. I was hoping we were going to get to do some fishing this week, but I'm trying to get ahead in the videos so that so I'm probably going to edit a couple tomorrow. We've got like 6 in the box, some good how-tos, some good unboxings. It's that time of year. A lot of good stuff coming down, but we're going to try our best to do some winter fishing, man. And we're going to try, especially now that I've got Mike, we're going to try our best to maybe even do some live streams. It's the only bad thing about the lakes I fish around here, unless I come down to like, you know, Cherokee, it's better. You know, South Holston sucks. The service on there sucks, but we're going to try from there. And then, yes, Chris, I got you. I think I replied to you. But anyway, I got to verify you, brother. There's some flakes out there that we got to be careful of, but I'll get you. Sorry, I've been busy just trying to get that video up today. Guys, if you haven't seen it, and you're hoping that your significant others will buy you something for Christmas, everything, I only put in things that I caught bass on this year. But the buyer's guide just went up today. Pretty please go watch it for me. And that's it. You guys have a good night. I hope if you're fishing this weekend, you catch a big one or 3. Think about me while I'm sitting at work, studying for a stupid test that I don't want anything to do with. And you geeks rock, man. Appreciate you all. Thank you. You don't know how much I appreciate you.